Broadcasting from our studio in Ocala, Florida, I'm Brody Barcode.
I'm Ryan James.
And
welcome to the Parlor,
your hub for independent art and entertainment, as well as a platform to showcase independent artists and entertainers abroad. Now that's gourmet. Hanging out with us in the Parlor this evening, we have the incredibly talented independent artist, explorer, filmmaker, producer, and also known as the Shark Whisperer, Mr. David Ulloa. Hello, sir. How you doing tonight?
I'm excellent, man. How are you guys?
Doing wonderful.
Not too shabby.
Wonderful.
Just saying, the weather we're having these days, it's nice and cool. I got my long sleeve up. My hot coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers.
So I was just gonna ask, how did the Shark Whisperer come about? How did that name come up? Just curious for everybody out there wondering.
I'm telling you what, it was quite serendipitous, by mistake and not intentional. So
that's how most things happen.
It really is, isn't it? It is. I'm going to take you back on a quick timeline, because to put it in a little bit of chronological order helps. So in 1994, I started in the film video production.
Okay.
In 99, I got horses and back into my life. Now, as a child, I had horses in my life, but in 99, I bought the farm. I didn't kick the bucket, but I did buy the farm. And we put a small herd of horses on there, but I had no idea how to deal with them. So my now ex-wife, we started learning what it was we could do to manage and work with these horses. Oh, wow. And so we learned natural horsemanship. It's from the Pirelli program, and they're located here in Ocala, and we learned a lot from Linda Pirelli. She's absolutely wonderful. And then in 2004, I take up technical diving. So I moved to East Texas, still have the horses, doing really well with that. Get into technical diving and start playing with what's underwater, shipwrecks and sharks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and between the time I'm playing with sharks and the time I got my horses, I learned horsemanship from horse whisperers. And now I'm playing with sharks. This is about 2006, 2007, underwater, doing the same thing with them that I'm doing with my horses. So I can get my horse to rear. I can get my horse, just like a dog. I can get your dog come to you. I can get my horse to do that. I can get it to spin around. I can get it to stand for the saddle. I can get it to come over to me to the fence. You know, so we have a language. We have a communication, a method of communication. Mm-hmm. Well, I said, well, I wonder if a shark could do this. And I started doing it with the sharks. And it happened on a shoot. I'm doing the technical dive. We're about 250 feet down on a shipwreck. The guy says, hey, will you shoot video of me going into this hole? And I said, absolutely, I'll do that. Hand me your camera. So we get down there, and swimming next to me is the biggest sand tiger shark I've ever seen. It's just, we're on a wreck with 200 sharks, but this is the biggest one swimming next to me. And it's about to swim right in front of the camera. And I'm like, that's going to foil the shot, because as soon as a shark enters that close to the frame, you're not going to see the guy entering the hole in the shipwreck. So I'd use an equine technique to send the shark away. So like to change directions.
Right.
So it's the same way I might use, like if I had an open gate and the horse was coming at the gate, I could ask him to stop. I could ask him to back up. I could ask him to turn around, and we work out through body language, energy, and tension, things like this. And the shark goes, the horse goes, oh, okay, I'll wait right here. And then I close my gate and everything's fine. No one gets run over on the highway.
That's real cool.
Yeah. And so I'm doing the same thing with the shark. I say, I need you to go that way, basically, by sending energy to a certain part of the shark. And the shark figured it out like that fast. Wow, and it turned directions, and it came back around. I'm holding the camera. I got the shot I was after. The shark came around, circled me, and parked in over here, and literally stopped next to me and looked at me in the eye. And I'm like, did you just hear what I said? And I was like, the shark said, did you just talk to me?
Now, does it matter what particular shark, or do you feel that it's all sharks?
It's as much all sharks as it is all dogs or
Okay.
all horses or birds, you know. So we see some pretty intelligent individuals within different species across the board, regardless of what breed or species of animal you're looking at. I mean, it's a great question, because some sharks are just so afraid of humans. They're like, I'm not going near you, and I don't care if you want to talk to me. I'm going to stay way the heck over here, you know.
Right.
And you're fine over there, you know. And others are so curious, and they're like, what are you? Where'd you come from? And why are you breathing? What's that thing on your back? You know, they're just trying to figure you out. And so then you can create a language, a rapport. And it wasn't long after that I said, I've got to figure this out. And the more I played with the animals to understand them, by about 2007, 2008, people on the dive boat watching me play with these animals, with these sharks, would come up and they're like, that dude's some kind of shark whisperer. And
That's awesome.
It was about the time the Horse Whisperer movie came out, and Cesar Millan, you know, the dog.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I actually have a surprise guest on the phone right now that wants to chime in and say hello.
Cool. Who do you got?
Hey, David, can you hear me?
Oh my gosh, I can hear you without the phone.
I was just checking in to make sure that you turned off your stove. You think you got the stove still running at the house?
I did turn off the stove. Tonight I'm turning on the barbecue pit.
Nice.
Mr. Mark Emery, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine, man. Congratulations on all this. This is great.
Thank you so much.
Just to chime in, at one point, Jordy Klein told me, you know, his dad did Flipper and film Flipper and all that, and they'd done a bunch with dolphins and communicating with them underwater. So he told us the next time you run across a dolphin underwater, just put your feet together and act like, you know, swim like a dolphin, and they'll crack up. They'll come back around and check you out and start laughing. So I didn't believe it, of course, but I'm going to give it a try. So Mary and I were down in the Bahamas filming a bonefish show. We got done filming, and here comes a mom with her baby. And so, you know, I start flapping like that, put my feet together and kicked, and she cracked up. And she brought the baby back, like, look at these idiots. This is amazing. I can't believe they let us in the water.
Here comes the comic relief.
That's right. Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I'm telling you what, seeing Mary swim, you know, monofin style would be beautiful, right? But watching you do it, Mark, I don't know.
No, well, that would crack up a human for sure. I just didn't know I could transmit that kind of humor to a dolphin.
I love it. That's great. That's great.
The fact that it went away a little bit, came back and brought the young one back by to show me. Actually, we've done a lot of that with grizzly bears in the summertime, getting fussed up at them, and it is amazing what you can make them do. And it's the same kind of thing. Just come on, like, we are not backing up. You're backing up, and this is getting ready to happen. And the first time I did it, I go, I can't believe that just worked.
Mark's
100 pounds of bad, you know, it still works. So
Mark's got it.
That stuff works amazingly well, and you found a wonderful niche there doing it.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I'll tell you what, it is, but you have to be creative, and you are creative, Mark. One of the things I loved, one of the stories you told me is when you used an umbrella to manage a grizzly bear.
Yeah. I've never seen one before, and
kind of like Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade.
We were trying to cover up a National Geographic camera. It was about $100,000. It was a film camera back in the day, and so we would use a big golf umbrella. And when I started opening it up sideways to lift it over the top of the camera, got a big lens on it. The bear 30, 40 yards away on the other side of the creek, just head came up and just reacted to it. Okay. So in one instance, two different instances, we're in open pasture with 50 grizzly bears feeding on grass, and they're real mellow overall. But every once in a while, there's a yahoo who gets, you know, mad at somebody else and gets run off. So he's walking around angry at the world, and he's got all the equipment. So he starts running at us, and usually these are bluff charges, but a bluff charge ends at 15 yards or 10 yards. And by then, you've got cramps in places you didn't even know you had places. So well, let's see how this little umbrella where we popped it up, and you realize that there's a giant black dot where 3 people used to be in a camera, and they had no response to that but to turn 180 and take off the other direction running. He didn't even back off and just look at it. He just ran. So we've been using it ever since. It works really good, especially on rainy days.
Absolutely. That's
That's
great.
awesome.
I love that creativity, Mark. And also, you know, you're showing the bear, you know, something that it's unexpected. And the bear is very different from the
Yeah.
shark. The bear is will prey on us. We are their food. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I submit to you that you should put a nice female shark on and paint it on the front of a big black umbrella and stick it underwater and see how that all works out.
Exactly. I may try that someday, Mark. Good to hear from you, man.
All right, my wife's in there shopping for expensive art. We don't have any money, so I'm gonna go in and rescue her.
You better help her out.
And a pleasure talking to you,
Mark, it was great hanging out with you for a bit, and we look forward to catching up with you soon. So thank you so much.
We'll be doing that. Take care, Ed.
All right. Have a great night. Be safe. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
He's great. Mark and I have worked together on a couple of things, several things, you know, something, but it's fun because sometimes he hires me and other times I hire him, and other times we just try to collaborate wherever we can. And
it's cool
just
you
a
say
ball.
that, because I mean that's actually how I got to meet you and Mark, was through the Bruce Mozart plaque on the Ocala Walk of Fame. I
Yeah.
came in and I'm writing to your guys' documentary that you're putting together. I thought
Yeah,
it was really
yeah.
fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, and it's always a treasure to be able to give an award or to recognize somebody for the amount of work and what they've done, because we truly are. Even everything we do today, we're standing on other people's shoulders. I mean, we always are. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So I was actually, speaking of Mark, where did you guys do you remember back where you guys got to collaborate for one of the first times there? Where
Not your thinking cap.
Come on, thinking cap on. Well, we were back on a ranch. No.
With a 20-gallon hat.
That's right. Since we're talking about that.
In the 70s, when I got my glasses off of Hunter S. Thompson there.
Yeah. No kidding. You know, Mark and I, it seems like, so I've been living in Ocala since 2000, basically. No, is it? No, 2000. I'm sorry. 2008 is when I moved to Ocala.
No.
Yeah.
And right away, you know, in the film community, you got to meet the people. So it's all about who you know and collaborating with, and you know, and it's a community of people.
Yeah.
And Mark and I were introduced right away. We didn't work together right away, but we were introduced, and you know, we just created a friendship. So when you asked when did you work first, I'm like, gosh, you know, we really had a strong friendship, and then we looked for every opportunity we could over the years to work together. And the first time I hired Mark was a corporate video piece, and it was nothing like he had normally done. This was marketing a flashlight, and he and Mary just did a whiz bang job, not only helping, you know, with the cinematography, or you know, doing the cinematography, but also helping organize extras. I mean, they really put on the producer's hat.
Yeah.
To help out. And then there's been other projects. Mark did a wonderful documentary about the Silver Springs and the boat captains out there, the history and all of that. So you know, he needed some drone footage and other things, and whenever he wanted something, I always tried to show up and be there and help him out. So that's the kind of things we do together, more like you two, like buddies and friends. And
Yeah.
Yep.
And then through that, just building bridges, you know, building,
Yes.
you know, just creating more solid foundations, you know.
Absolutely.
With,
Absolutely.
Artists and entertainers.
Mhm.
So as far as for yourself, where did it all begin? Like, as far as going into this field, like realizing, okay, this is the direction that, you know, I want to go, and this makes the most sense to me.
Absolutely. That's, you know, it's very similar to how I got the name Shark Whisperer. The producer moniker came much in the same fashion. I back in so we'll go back even further. When I was in college, I failed. I literally got kicked out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they said you got to go do something with your life, but don't come here and do it.
And that's what I learned in college.
That's right, exactly. And so I took a test for the Navy. I was already involved in the armed services, and college and in high school and things like that with the ROTC. And so I took a test for the Navy, and they said, you can do anything you want to be in the Navy. I'm like, you guys are really nuts, because, you know, this third-rate university just threw me out.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Yeah. And so
My confidence isn't in the strongest at the moment.
I'm just saying, and you guys are telling me I can have any job I want in the Navy as an enlisted man, right? So I said, all right, well, what's the best paying job? You know, and they said nuclear power. And I'm like, you got to be kidding, man. I just literally failed. All right, so let's go. So I went to nuclear power school, where I learned nuclear physics, atomic physics, reaction science, how to build a reactor basically, and how to run it underwater. And I passed.
His house.
Yeah, that's right. That's how I got all this going on. Yeah. And so, you know, I barely passed. I get to prototype. I barely passed that, but I mean, I pass really well. And I get involved in submarines. We deploy for 3 months at a time, and we come back. Well, I was newlywed, madly in love, and very family centric. It was close to my family and enjoyed that. So got a little video camera, and for the 3 months I was out of the water, I videotaped everything. I did some quick editing. It was just VHS to VHS, machine to machine, just play, record kind of thing. Took it underwater, and then I had 3 months worth of family entertainment, my wife, my family, parents, stuff like that, where I could be with them, you know, even though I was out of communication with them, because it was a boomer. So when I realized nuclear power wasn't for me, and the Navy life was fun, but it really wasn't where I wanted to specialize or focus, I said, well, I'm not going to re-enlist, but now what am I going to do with my life? You know, my dreams from high school and college were literally shattered because of my inability to learn. It turns out I'm dyslexic, and the Navy figured it out. And so I had to I created a strategy on how to overcome that, or deal with it, you know. So I'm still dealing with it today. But so I looked at what I was doing in my life, and I said, you know, there's two things I really love. I love golfing, and I love this video stuff, you know, edit, and I would make credits, and I just played with it, and it was just for me, you know. And I was like, that was fun. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go to film school. So I went back to college, and I went to film school, did an RTF track over at the University of Austin, and, you know, in that area, San Antonio, Austin. And that's how I got started in film. And that was in '94. And the first thing I did is I went and produced a documentary on 16 millimeter. And it's still not finished. We never got our finishing funds.
I was going to say, I mean, film and filming in 1994 in Austin, that had to have been incredible. I mean, just with what was going on coming out of the independent film movement. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I did. I knew all those people. I knew the editors. I knew the crew. I worked at Texas Motion Picture Services. That's where I got my splicer. And, you know, they ran dailies. I mean, so every film, not only independent film, but every major motion picture that would come through that Austin area did their dailies at TMPS. And so, you know, I literally got to meet, I mean, everybody who shot in Texas between like 93 and 98. Yeah. You know, I had their name in my Rolodex, as it were. Clint Eastwood, Dave Valdez. I mean, everybody who lives in Austin, all these folks, you know, Rodriguez, and, you know, just the Linklater. I mean, everybody, you know, was running around Austin, and it was not uncommon to just, you know, have somebody over to your house or just see him in a bar. And then I started up the Austin Independent Cinema Series. You know, this was probably about 96. Oh, it was great. So anybody who made an independent film, it could be on video, it could be on film. We had both projectors, and we had to rent the video projector if somebody had a video or something like that. And we would show their film, and it was a bar it was an old theater that was converted into a bar. So we were on the balcony. Cool. And then had a screen at the foot of the balcony, and, you know, over the side of the balcony was a pool hall. You know, it was a bar, full on bar. And down below on the street, there was a pizza joint. And so this was pre-Alamo Cinema Draft House, the Draft House thing. Yeah. So everybody would grab pizza, get a beer from the bar, come up and watch independent cinema. And then it was like a film festival. So I'd have the filmmakers or anybody who was involved get up on the little stage and we just do something like this.
Yeah.
And we must have shown a dozen films there through the run of it. We
I was gonna say, because it almost sounds like the idea that spawned what now is the Alamo Draft House. You know,
may have been. I don't know. It was great.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, how you're describing it, that is so incredible.
They started up after I left town.
Yeah.
I mean, I left town. I went to East Texas to be with my wife's family. They, her father was very ill, and so we just picked up and moved.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was spectacular. We'd have Oscar night parties there at the draft house. I mean, at the draft house at the cinema series. It was, I forget the name of it. It was a pool hall, but it was an old theater.
Yeah.
And it kept the name, and they had the marquee out on front. I should pull out some of my flyers or old, pictures or promos from that.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, but it was a ball, and it kept me connected to the independent film world until I moved to East Texas. But that's how I got my start in this industry.
On the independent film, since you are a filmmaker and doing a lot of it underwater, are your films part of the independent realm, or do you get contracted by bigger companies as well to produce these things?
Yeah, great question. Starting since 2004, I got involved in technical diving. It was another one of those things that was a huge passion. Just and technical diving, if you don't know, is where we go beyond the recreational limits. Recreational limits being, 130 feet is your bottom, and you don't go into decompression. So so there's limits to that, and they limit it also by the size of tank you might wear. So they put a small tank on a person, and the deeper you go, the faster that tank depletes.
Yeah.
And so if you stay shallow, you'll likely run out of air too before you need to get out. So there's limitations put on recreational diving. Well, technical diving, we go beyond those, and we have limits, but they're self-imposed based on our skill, ability, training, and just overall comfort level with going into certain situations. And so 2004, I'm doing a lot of technical diving, or it's where I started it. And I really stepped away from motion picture, independent film, and started taking on television.
Oh, wow.
By the time, yeah. And that where I got the Shark Whisperer name, I said the shark was here, and I said, would you go away? And it turned around. Well, that was the money shot for a series that I ended up co-hosting on Discovery Channel.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. So they saw that shot, and they saw the teaser. It was for a teaser or a promo for a show. And the network said, I don't know how you did it, but whatever you do it over again. So the producer, Vinny Calvert, he calls me and he says, Vinny says, Dave, they loved your shot, the shot you got on that wreck. And I said, well, that was great. It was a lot of fun. I played with sharks. And he said, so they want you to continue the show as one of our hosts. And I said, all right, let's go. So we
take the opportunity and run with it.
Absolutely. So we created Quest for Sunken Warships, and that ran on the military channel and got reruns on Science and Discovery. And so I was away from independent cinema and motion pictures and that type of thing for a long time. After Quest for Sunken Warships did its thing, Animal Planet wanted to do some kind of shark show with me, and we met with the executives. We put between me and a partnering production company, we literally put about $30,000 into a teaser, which is unheard of. I mean, that's half of an episode for some of these shows. Yeah. And the network was super excited about it, had several meetings up in New York with the executives. And I mean, they wanted me to do like Something Rubbed My Leg, Oceans of Blood. It was really gory shark stuff. And I'm like, guys, I can't do it. And they're like, oh, you could be big, you could do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do something where we're threatening, where we're showing that sharks are the monsters of the ocean. And then later we'll say, well, they're not really the monsters. We just did that for this show. The truth is, and that's what they do today.
Impressionable minds out there that would actually go, that's how it spawned Sharknado, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Sharknado. I tried to watch that. It was funny for what it was. If you remove the fact that these are
through, and I like watching bad movies from time to time, and I couldn't make it through.
Yeah, it's tough. But the people were creative in doing it.
Yes.
Give them that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I really ended up stepping away because of television.
Yeah.
And then, where we got here, living here in Florida, I moved to Florida to make it easier to do the things that the network wanted, because everything we were going to be with sharks was going to be, all around the planet and between the airports here and living here in Florida, huge stepping off places to the popular spots for sharks, including, Bahamas, our Florida Keys, some of the marine sanctuaries, around the area. So I ended up really stepping away from independent cinema, and now I'm really yearning to go back, like in a bad way.
Oh
wow.
Yeah.
Do you also have you done any personal documentaries?
Personal, well, we've done stuff that we've produced, that we've been contracted to do. So I've done some that we've been contracted, but we also pushed it to try to make it, and that had to do with coral restoration. So we did a show partnered with Dive Right and Coral Restoration Group, so to make a small documentary, and it really was a low budget documentary, but it was a passion piece. And we went out, it's called Parallel Journeys. You can watch it on Facebook. It's a fun little documentary, and it's good for kids, and it's good to show what corporate America and what research and conservation organizations can do when they get together and work together. And the corporate was Dive Right, which is an equipment manufacturer. That one we did as a passion. We were partner in that because we really just didn't take any money. I mean, we took money for costs, but we didn't really make a lot of money off of it. So we were partner in that, but it was free distribution, so it wasn't really a business thing. And now we're working on
for like, speaking of passion projects, do you have your own passion project documentary that you would want to do to see about getting into the world? I recently seen a Netflix movie, a documentary called My Octopus Teacher.
Yes.
Bad title, but beautiful documentary in the ideas. Because I mean, me personally, I like looking at octopi.
Yeah.
However, I'm scared to death of what, outside of the Kraken type of a thing going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The idea of them latching onto me when I'm in the water.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they're highly intelligent.
Yeah.
I know that they do seem to create bonds in captivity with some of their caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something like, not necessarily that, I have a special bond with the shark, he's a great white, he's just like a puppy. No. But something maybe on those lines, something that you've self-discovered throughout your journey of working in the water and with some of these animals.
Yeah, and thank you for asking. There's a couple of pieces. One, is and I haven't come up with a title yet, or even a working title, but it's a movie it would be a documentary about cave diving.
Very cool.
Yeah, cave diving is, again, one of my passions. It's part of it's encompassed in that whole technical diving, area, because we're going in an overhead environment, we're going into decompression, and there's certain things that you have to take into account to be able to survive that trip 2 or 3 miles into a cave.
Right.
That's flowing. Some are flowing backwards.
Wow.
Yeah.
To me, that's terrifying. The idea, it'd be neat, but 2 or 3 miles into a cave.
Yeah. An underwater cave.
Around now.
That's right. Yeah. And yeah, it's tricky. And this is why it's technical diving. But the thing about it is the reaction of most people, or just your reaction. It is terrifying.
Yeah.
But for a group of us, it's like a religious place. Like it's a temple on some level for me. Right. And I took up cave diving so I could become a better wreck diver. So you have shipwrecks that are 200-300 feet deep, and you want to enter.
Right.
Yeah. So cool. You want to enter the shipwreck, and it might be on its side, it might be upside down, turtled, it might be, broken up, and you want to penetrate through and find some things. And usually by the time you enter a shipwreck, you've lost visibility. I mean, you're going to swim into clear water, but as soon as you're like, okay, time to turn around, you turn around and it's all mucked up. You can't see. It's just like chocolate milk or something. And so to be a better wreck diver, I took up cave diving. But what I realized when I got into the cave, and it was a great friend, Joe Odom, taught me cave diving. And he's not religious and not terribly sentimental. But when I got into the cave, I found like a spirituality that I think most people get into yoga to experience, is this centered feeling, a singleness in thought.
Yeah.
And my only thought was the activity of the cave dive, memorizing my turns left and right. Because if you're coming out without a mask or light or in total blackout, you're following a string, but you kind of have to remember, okay, this string is going to wrap that rock and it's going to make a hard left, you know? And so got to reach around the rock and then swim and then, you know, maneuver and remember, oh, there's this thing sticking out. I got to not hit that with or catch it on my gear. We're wearing a ton of gear that you can get caught on. And so wherever there are line restrictions or traps or hazards, you kind of have to remember that. And I mean, like a drill would just be like, be in your house and close your eyes and then walk from one end of your house to the other without breaking anything.
Right.
Most people could kind of they'd bounce around, hit a wall or hit some furniture or something. But if you can do it without breaking anything or hurting yourself, that's kind of cave diving. And so there was this spirituality. And so I'd like to make a documentary about that journey and about that experience, because it's not a terrifying place if you have the right tools, education, and state of mind. And the reason I want to make it is because anybody can have that in anything they endeavor to do. Whether you want to test
That's
your limits with
inspirational words right there.
Thanks. That's part of how I live my life, is like, I hope to inspire or show people. This is on my desk. Do not go where the trail may lead, go where there's none and leave a path.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's on my desk. And so I love to go through those places, experience for myself what it is might be scary, terrifying, or bother other people, and then expose to them a different way of approaching this problem. And it's probably something they can adopt in their everyday life. Maybe dealing with a child is outside their comfort zone. You know, there's some children out there who are violent and terrible, and some parents are scared to death. And then just like, how do I deal with this child? And then, yeah, maybe they'll come up with some ideas, and it can be that Zen place that they find. And then they're able to manage, you know, a 12-year-old who would otherwise hurt them. And so that's one documentary, is the cave diving. And I don't know what I would call it. The other documentary would be The Shark Whisperer, which does the same thing, but with sharks. It just tells the shark story and helps to demystify them. And the reason part of why I want to do that is because if you can rethink a shark, everybody knows the shark goes, rah, 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 you know, and we're going to need a bigger boat. And, you know, it's like sharks are that way, and it's okay. You know, we as humans, we have to have a monster.
Yeah.
Because we're used to being, as we evolved, we're used to being prey animals to a lot of creatures that are recently extinct from this planet. So we haven't evolved away from that yet. So we have to have a monster. And the shark's a perfect one. Yeah. And so, you know, but if we can rethink the shark, then I hope that somebody can be living in a neighborhood and look over that fence and go, you know, I'm going to try to figure out that neighbor. You know, we have a fence, but I no longer need to threaten to get my gun, get my baseball bat whenever he looks over the fence, you know, whatever. And some people have really hard relationships with neighbors, with family, with friends, and maybe they can rethink that person for just a little while, and it might bring a little calmness for just a moment. Yeah. So those are the two documentaries that are in my dream place. Is
there anything right now on the table as far as letting people out there know as far as checking out the newest things coming up?
Yeah, we're working on one that I'm super, super stoked about. And it's we're nearing the end of post-production on it. It's called Mr. 4-Speed. Yeah, it's this. We've been working on this for over a year. It started with our client. So this is a piece that we were paid to make. Our client says, I want to make a documentary about my dad's racing career.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we went and visited with him, and he interviewed us. He didn't know us. I say me, my production partner, Dee McHenry. And we spent the weekend with him and his family. And we all got to know each other. And what Dee and I discovered is they have a very close, tight knit, wonderful family unit that's super supportive of each other. And we also learned that Herb McCandless, who is the subject of this documentary, had an incredible and amazing life story because of his ability to accomplish things. And he wouldn't let anything get in his way, but he wouldn't be cruel or mean about achieving that thing either.
Oh, go.
He would do it fair and square. And he's a dragster racer. He started racing, 57 Chevys on the street in Memphis. He calls them, he says, yeah, we would do acceleration tests on the street. It's classic 1950s, 1960s racing, with somebody going, woo, jumping up and two cars, wow, down the street, or the stoplight changes. This is how this man grew up. And yet he didn't cheat. He didn't like to be unfair to anybody. He didn't see that there was a need to do that kind of game playing.
Yeah, that's a rare breed.
Yeah, and he wins, and he was a winner, and he did that through not only his racing career, but he did it through his professional career when he started a parts shop and a speed shop, basically. He started a body shop, sold that off, started parts, and he was one of the biggest dealers of rear ends, of components for these race cars for decades, 20 years, 25 years. And he helped design some of the intakes that are in use today, some of the motors that he just did testing. Chrysler called him and said, hey, he was a very reliable driver, and he drove the 4-speed really well. And when they wanted something tested, they would call him up and say, hey, would you mind getting out to Milan or to the track and, jump in the seat and tell us what you know, or let us measure what you're doing. And he'd say, sure. And then he'd come give him his 2 cents. Super insightful engineering mind. And so he would put all that to use, and Chrysler is still using, Mopar is still using his parts and things today. It's fascinating. In making this documentary, we call these organizations, and they're like, yeah, use the material. Herb's been good to us. And, I remember watching him when I was a kid, and, so that's what we're working on now. It's called Mr. 4-Speed. It went from a small documentary about his racing career to a 160-minute long film that, we said, Mike, we've cut it down as much as we can, and we're still at 160 minutes. And he says, well, how long can we be if you wanted everything you wanted in there? I'm like, we're at 200 minutes, 220 minutes. If we put everything we want in there. Yeah. And he's like, okay, let's do it. 4 parts.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So at the end of this summer, we expanded scope and made a 4-part series.
So is there, as far as with that film, a link that maybe we can put into the description box on this hangout in the parlor, and that way just kind of sending traffic to? Or
absolutely. McCandless Antique Auto.
Okay.
And it's easiest to find them on Facebook. They've got a website which you can see. Mike is the son of Herb. Herb's the racer. Mike is a very successful businessman. Okay. And a very charitable person. This documentary series, when it's completed, he's not selling it. He's just giving it away. Anybody wants it, it's just freely distributed, and he's put some money into it because he's of that kind of caliber where he wants things to be done and done right. Yeah. And he's got the ability to make things happen. But he has purchased, or remodeled or rebuilt almost all of his dad's race cars. And he's got that in the collection. So these are muscle cars from the 60s and 70s, and they're original, or they're refabricated to match the original. One of the cars actually was completely destroyed in a fire back in 1970. And so that one had to be completely, they have a word for it in the industry, but it had to be, it's a fake, it's a replica. Yeah. But boy, when you start that car, it's original parts. It's this motor, and you'll in the documentary, we're working the sound, and so you can feel it. So if you have a subwoofer in your screening room or on your computer, you will feel the sound of that deep engine. And boy, when they start it, it's just mind-boggling to think that back in the 70s, there were 80 of those cars lined up in this parade getting ready to race, and they're just like, wow, and they take off.
Like an earthquake rumbling through.
Absolutely. And of course the modern vehicles are bigger, louder, have more concussion, and you lose your hearing to stand next to them like you used to. These yeah, but these back then, those muscle cars from the 70s were real cars. Like you could watch your favorite driver race, on a Saturday, and then on Monday go buy that same car at the dealership, and then go to a clinic that he raced for Sox and Martin.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to a clinic, which is just, it's like a film festival, a place where the racers and the mechanics and everybody's hanging out at the dealership, and they'll show you how to soup up your car so you can be just like them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, as far as that film being available, is it available yet, or is it coming out soon?
It's coming out soon. Just as soon as we finish it, I have a feeling Mike's going to just turn it out, just let it go, get it out there and promote it. What you can see right now.
Send us a link for
absolutely
the Facebook.
Yeah, because like I said, yeah, we'll put that right there into the description.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah,
absolutely.
There are outtakes, so we made a little mini series. There was so much good material. We shot for 5 days for our principal photography, hoping we could get it all. Well, we had everything we needed in 2 days. Herb's a great presenter. Mike and his brothers came up with outstanding questions to be able to key memories and information from the decades. And Herb really is a great storyteller. So we pretty much had everything we needed in the first 2 days. And so we still spent 2 days shooting, getting interviewed and B-roll and cutaway, so we went to his house and things. We came away with so much good information and good stories. Some of them didn't quite fit into our story arcs, of the feature film or now of the 4-part series, but they were interesting and compelling stories. So we made a series called Uncut with Herb McCandless.
Nice.
And it literally is the raw footage, of a story being told. And some of them are 3 minutes long, some are 6 or 8 minutes long.
That's fun too.
But several of those episodes are out there, and they're, and I'll send links to the Vimeo pages of those. That way you can, tag them in.
Like I said, we'll drop all of that right in for you.
Perfect.
And I apologize, we're getting ready to come to a wrap here. But I was just going to ask, any words of just good, solid advice for up and coming artists, independent filmmakers, young producers, coming into the business as such, as far as even for where you're at today?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, it's got to be the thing of never give up. Don't ever give up. The slightest movement in the right direction is a move in the right direction.
Yeah.
And the most interesting thing is no matter how slight that move is, what could happen after that could be like a giant step.
Yeah.
Like you just never know. It's not like a normal industry or a business where you're, designing widgets and you've been putting them out there and you improve them and you have version 4 of the widget and, and then you hit a tipping point. Malcolm Gladwell did a really good job of talking about tipping points. This business is more like you just keep moving in the direction you love, what inspires you, what makes you passionate, because it's hard. And, you have to wake up and go, this is what I want to do. Every year on my birthday, I wake up and Dee says, all right, it's your day. What do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I was just thinking about this edit I did last night and I want to finish that up this morning. I wanted, it was like, I get excited about like, hey, let's do some work. And so I think for up and coming people or people who want into the industry, you just have to really know how to persevere the hardships that you'll endure, because you don't have to endure them, but the odds that you just, tip or hit something big right out of the gate is super, super, super slim. Yeah. But the more you push at it, the easier it becomes. The more you pull, the more people who want you near they want you near them, because you become a beacon of like positive, encouraging, and understand it's a collaborative thing. So I can't as a filmmaker, I cannot be better than the person next to me because I want them next to me. So if they're better than me, it's like all of a sudden I get to be better. And maybe it works both ways. If you're modest, somebody will say, well, that guy, he's great. Get next to me, and that's you. And so that would be my words of consideration.
That wave.
Yes.
Exactly.
Start with everybody else.
Learning how to ride the wave.
Yes. Because there will be a lot of them. Some will knock you on your butt too. And you're just like, what the heck?
Oh yeah.
I won't tell you what year it was, but there was a year that I looked at my bank account and went, that's great. I have $12. And it was like $12.58. I'm like, now what are we going to do?
Right.
Didn't give up though. I'll tell you that.
No,
that's awesome.
Well, David, I greatly appreciate you coming and hanging out with us in the parlor this evening. Much. This has been really, really fun, man. Really.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I've enjoyed it too. Oh. I don't know where that guy comes from. I really just need to relax. I go to the spa.
Cozy.
Yeah. I don't know what the lipstick thing is, but one of these days I'll get underground.
What is that?
This is a snap camera.
No. What was the previous object?
Oh, that's a potato.
It's a potato with like tabby markings on it.
Yeah, like a Lion King.
Part cat, part tater.
Like a Lion King potato.
It's got a crown. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potato.
One day that potato will grow up to be a pilot. So what I love about these things is I go into, have meetings, and like I just, somebody will ask me a serious question and I'll be like, well, let me think about that.
Hold on, let me pull my string.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just fun stuff. Or, it's like, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Half of these things were made for girls.
Very festive.
I like the blush.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
Yeah. I could really get crazy.
Nice.
Actually, that one's really cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Some kind of winter, like winter is coming. I'd have to have a high-pitched voice to have this face, though.
Well, thank you so much again, man. Really, really appreciate it.
And if everybody would subscribe, ring the little bell, which is here. Actually, keep going, David. There we go. It's not in Brody's crotch this time.
Oh, yeah.
Also, if you guys are ever interested to listen to podcasts, all of our interviews are in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify. We're trying to get a few more, but those are some of the major platforms. You can listen to us there. Thank you all for joining us in the parlor. Thank you, David, for sharing some wonderful information. And
You're welcome
for joining us.
Thanks for having me out here.